The kids and families and caseworkers were so grateful that we knew we were doing the right thing. The story begins more than 40 years ago with a group of friends wanting to change the story for kids in foster care. According to David Byers, one of AFFCF's founders,
we saw the need in terms of children in foster care not having all of the enrichment services, sports activities, arts, things that a normal child might have in a family. I approached Barbara Polk, who was the chair of the State Board of Foster Care Review Boards then. She thought it was a great idea. We recruited then Marilyn Manson, the third founder, and the three of us sort of put our heads together and said, okay, let's do this, and here's what it would look like. And then we recruited Ken Reeves, the fourth and final founder, who was a lawyer, and he was a review board member, and he agreed to do the paperwork necessary to incorporate and put the foundation legally into place.
Gene Polk, husband of founder Barbara Polk, adds,
to Barb, it was clear that these children were not supplied with what children generally have, and she thought that needed to be supplemented somehow.
In 1984, Arizona Friends of Foster Children Foundation funded our first moment of joy by paying $29.61 for flute lessons for an 8-year-old child in Prescott. Chris Jacober served as AFFCF's executive director for 11 years.
Arizona Friends works really hard with caregivers to figure out what are the things that kids need and want and give them a childhood.
Michael Murphy was a grandparent who became a foster parent to his 5 grandchildren.
It was not on my list of life plans that my wife and I had put together. We were in the process of preparing for retirement. Child Protective Services contacted us about our 5 grandchildren. And we were given the option of becoming foster parents, or our 5 grandchildren would basically be split up. We wanted to send them to camp and we just couldn't afford it. So we asked for some assistance. You provided that. They still talk about their experiences at camp. Some people might think it's frivolous, but it's really not for these kids who lacked in so much. They established relationships, were involved in activities that allowed them to grow and become leaders in many respects.
Since 1984, AFFCF supported approximately 90,000 children and youth in foster care across Arizona. The AFFCF post-secondary program gives kids with foster care backgrounds a shot at college. Former board member and scholarship committee chair Tamara Shanker describes the need.
The experiences we were giving and continue to give as far as giving children a childhood is undisputable of what the value of that is. But an education is something that you carry with you your entire life.
Jasper Smith is a current AFFCF scholar attending Howard University in Washington, D.C.
I knew that I always wanted to go to college. I had big aspirations and big dreams from a pretty young age. One night, all of that kind of changed. But it wasn't until I spoke with the guidance counselor at my high school. She let me know that, despite the circumstances, despite what you're going through right now, you can't give up on your dreams. I was admitted into Howard on my birthday. Scholarships like this one allowed me to face less financial burden, especially coming out of foster care system. Just so fortunate that I've been a recipient of it, all of the resources that it provides, those check-ins and the care packages, stuff like that goes a long way. It feels very personal. So it's not just a scholarship. It's you get a community in a way.
In 2013, the number of children in foster care was at an all-time high. Then came the foster care tax credit. Ben Norris, a board member, recalls the beginning of the tax credit.
In the last few months of 2013, Arizona Friends was facing a difficult situation because the number of kids coming into care was growing enormously and our resources were not. And so we were having a look at the idea of cutting back on some of the things that we were doing.
Chris Jacober also recalls.
This foster care tax credit has totally changed the landscape. The foster care tax credit helps to ensure that what happens next for kids in foster care is that they have the resources and the support and the opportunity to be like every other kid.
We had a young man who was in foster care in Yuma, and he was accepted into a NASA space camp at MIT. His caseworker had managed to come up with the money to pay the tuition, but there was no money for airfare, no money for food, no money for the other things that needed to be paid for this to happen. And that didn't fit neatly into any of the categories in our awards guidelines, but we knew that had to happen. And so we provided the money.
Over the course of the foster care tax credit, we tripled the number of scholars that we have. We created the Keys to Success program.
Imagine turning 18 and being ushered out of the home you've lived in and turned out on your own with no support, according to board member Ben Norris.
The number of kids who don't succeed coming out of the foster care system historically has been terrible.
Created in 2014, our Keys to Success program works to change the stories of youth transitioning from foster care to adulthood so they can achieve self-sufficiency and the future they deserve. Jasmine Flores is a graduate of the Keys to Success program.
When I was 17, I was really stressed about what was going to happen to my life, where I was going to go. I actually asked my caseworker if I could get a job, and my caseworker at the time, he didn't feel that it was right for me to get a job yet because I was still in high school. If your caseworker says you can't get a job, then you can't get a job, and you're going to wait till you're 18 to get a job, and by then you already have to be out of there, so what's going to happen next? I wanted to be a part of the Keys program because I seen that they could help with education and job goals. I would say that the program's life-changing.
Since graduating from the Keys to Success program 8 years ago, Jasmine has been working at AFFCF, first as our administrative assistant and is now our program assistant. For the past 40 years, Arizona Friends of Foster Children Foundation has been working to solve a specific need in a broken foster care system. As we look to the future, our organization aims to become the single connector for all meaningful things related to foster care. We want to do more than just help. We want to change the experience of children and youth in foster care so we can change their stories. With approximately 10,000 children and youth in foster care, we know that more needs to be done to change their stories. AFFCF looks to play our part and continue leading the way through meaningful and life-changing support. Be part of the change.